Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'd like to continue our discussion on how to better visualize the state of a Simulink aircraft model using FlightGear by installing additional aircraft model/skins. So as I just mentioned, this current video is a continuation of our previous video, which has the same name as what you see here, but just remove everything after the colon. So in other words, scratch all of this out. So if you haven't already watched this previous video, I'd recommend you do that right now by clicking on the card right up here, which hopefully you see showing up on your screen. I'll just highlight this with an arrow. And check that out because we are going to be building off what we did in that previous tutorial. So today, we'll just see how to enhance our aircraft visualization system by adding different aircraft models to FlightGear. So, if that sounds like your cup of tea, let's jump over to Simulink and get started. Alright, so just to refresh your memory of what we did in the last tutorial is we discussed basically setting up this flight simulator where we've got a joystick, which is then controlling our aircraft model. This is our RCAM model, which is basically a two-engine kind of mid-sized sort of 757 sized aircraft, and we would then have it output the states as you see here and then send those states to basically the FlightGear visualization block so that we could send the relevant information off to FlightGear so that we could use FlightGear to actually draw the position and orientation and attitude of the aircraft as the simulation was running. We also talked about how to use this generate run script block, which basically creates this runfg.bat file, which, if you look at it, is basically going to launch FlightGear with the appropriate settings, and more specifically, what we care about in this case is a specific aircraft. So in this case, it launches with the Cessna 172. So again, the idea was you could double-click on this batch file, and what it does is it starts up FlightGear, as you can see here, in a state that's ready to interact with the Simulink model. So for example, if I put the Simulink model off to the side and run this, you can see that there, now we're flying along, and I can use the joystick again to basically fly the vehicle, and we can visualize and render the scenario here in FlightGear. So again, this is exactly what we did last time. Now, the thing that we want to change is the fact that this aircraft, like we just mentioned, we're trying to simulate this two-engined aircraft, commercial transport aircraft, which is about the size of a 757, similar geometry there. But in FlightGear, we're rendering it with a Cessna 172, so that something should go clang here, right? This picture on the left doesn't match the picture on the right, so it would be much better if we could actually draw and render the environment using the appropriate aircraft. So that's what I want to talk about. So we talked about earlier in the previous video, what FlightGear is basically doing, right, is if you open up in C program files, FlightGear, you come into data, and then you come into aircraft. You see, here's a list of the available aircraft that we can use. And as we saw earlier, we're leveraging this one, right? The Cessna 172P model. Well, I don't see anything about a 757, so let's go ahead and see if we can get that. So, to do that, let me move this off to the side. Let me close down FlightGear, because again, this is the FlightGear that we launched via this batch script. So I'm going to close this down, okay? Now, that's closed. It died. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just start up FlightGear normally. So I know you can't see it. It's on my other screen, but just go ahead and start your open the start menu and search for FlightGear and launch the app by itself. And that is going to bring up FlightGear, which is sort of in the standard mode. So here you can see it just popped up. Here's our launcher. So what we want to do is we want to add some more aircraft to FlightGear so that we can use them in our Simulink environment. So to do that, come here and click on the aircraft button. And as you can see, under the installed aircraft, we see just what is available here in this folder, right? Here's the Cessna 172. Here's this UFO down here. So what we need to do is come over here to the Browse tab. Okay, and now there are tons and tons and tons of aircraft that you can filter, you can look through. So here's like a 707, a 737. Aha, look at this. There's a 757. So this is actually the model that I would like to get because that would match perfectly with what we are trying to simulate over here in Matlab Simulink. So to get this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on this install button. And you can see it's downloading, but what's interesting is notice that there's nothing showing up here. So it's not actually downloading to C program files, FlightGear, data, aircraft, right? So instead, we've got to go find out where this is downloading to. So tell you what, let's give this a second to finish, and I'll show you where FlightGear actually decides to place these files. All right, so as you can see, this finished downloading, and now we got to go find those files. So where FlightGear decides to stick these, at least on Windows, is in your C users, your username, documents, FlightGear, aircraft, and then it may be here in the aircraft section, or it might be a couple of levels down here in this org.flightgear.fg add-on. And then in aircraft. So anyway, dig around a little bit, and then here we go, 757-200, right? That is what we were looking for because that is what we just installed. So these are the files we're looking for. So let's go ahead and right-click, and what I need to do is I'm going to copy them, or actually tell you what, let's cut them. Let's move them completely. So I'm going to cut them out of this location, and I'm going to come here to C program files, FlightGear, data, aircraft, right? The usual repository for where all of our FlightGear aircraft go. And I'm going to go ahead and paste this in here. Now, you may need administrator rights, and if maybe you're on a machine where you don't have administrator rights, and we'll talk about that again a little bit later. But for now, let's assume that you can just go ahead and hit continue and move those files into that location. So there we are, 757-200. That is downloaded and moved over. So what I can do now is, for giggles, let's go ahead and actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to close FlightGear, and I'm going to restart it. Just from the usual start menu. So again, I apologize, that's off screen. You probably can't see me going ahead, and I'm just opening the start menu, searching for the FlightGear app and relaunching it. And here we are. So now we've got this 757-200, as you can see. So if you come here into the aircraft tab again, you see now, in addition to the Cessna 172 and this UFO, which were there a while, earlier, now we've got the option for this Boeing 757-200, and heck, we can use, different skins if we want. Let's just keep it with the default one. And now you can basically go ahead and we could fly in FlightGear, and okay, that's fine. We don't have the right airport. That's okay. But now it's going to load up this Boeing 757-200, and we could fly like usual. Now, this is great, and I think this is showing that we basically have installed the aircraft files correctly. But again, the way we just launched FlightGear is more if you want to use it for, your normal flying around, having fun. It's not going to be set up to be listening to the appropriate ports, and basically it's not hooked up and ready to accept data from our Simulink model. So again, all we're doing at this step is basically just checking to make sure that the aircraft files were installed and moved to the correct location where FlightGear can find it. So tell you what, let's give this a second to go ahead and finish initializing all these subsystems, and we will go ahead and show that it's working in just a second. All right, so it looked like that the aircraft loaded up. This sure looks like a different cockpit. It doesn't look like a Cessna 172 anymore. This sure looks like the 757. Now, what's interesting is, depending on your FlightGear installation and how you launched it and what settings you used, this may or may not already be talking to your joystick and the Simulink model. So for example, if I move my joystick right now, take a look at this. For this model, it appears that it's actually accepting, it's listening to the joystick inputs. So this part is good to go. Now, what's interesting for this particular installation, my installation and the way I had previously used FlightGear and set the options, if I come over here and run the aircraft model over here in Simulink, you can see it's running, and now it has moved, it's warped to the location. Oh, good, the scenery is coming in right now. And look at this. it looks like it's actually ready to go and ready to interact with Simulink. It's listening for the over the appropriate ports for packets coming from Simulink, and it seems to be working. So for my particular situation, this seemed to work quite well. Now, that being said, let me go ahead and hit stop Simulink. The way we got here was a little bit wonky, right? We had to launch it and basically pick the aircraft. So instead, what I think would be better and what we probably want to do is we would like to go ahead and, if I can pull up the batch file. Where did I put it? Oh, sorry, it was over here. No, sorry. Where did I put the batch file? Oh, sorry, that was in our folder with our Matlab. Right here. This batch file that we updated, let's go ahead and update this batch file to basically launch the 757 and get everything ready to rock right away. So to do that, let's go ahead and close FlightGear back here. Okay. And now what we should probably do is let's go ahead and make a copy of this bat file. Paste it right there. And actually, I'm going to rename this old one. This was the launching the Cessna 172P, right? So what I want to do now is let's modify this second bat file to basically launch our 75. Oh, I wish I could type here. 757-200. Right? So to do that, it's pretty easy. You can basically just edit this. Now, what you might be tempted to do is come over here to the aircraft data, right? And you see, oh yeah, here, there's a 757-200, right? So you might be tempted to come down here into the aircraft option and just change this to match this folder name. But you know what? This is actually not going to work. So I'll prove it to you right now. If you just type in 757-200, right? And then you come here and you hit save, and you close the batch file, and now you come here and you try to run this batch file by double-clicking on it. What you end up with is you get an error, right? FlightGear, it tries to launch a batch file, and then it yells at you. It says, the aircraft, this 757-200, could not be found in any of the search paths. So that seems like it's not going to work. The reason why is that we actually need to change this to a very specific string here. So for the Cessna case, it just so happened that the string we wanted was actually C172P. But for this 757, it's a slightly different string. So the way to get that string and figure out what FlightGear needs in order to launch is, again, I'm going to launch FlightGear sort of the normal way. So again, hit the start menu, search for the FlightGear app, launch it. All right, and it basically shows up here. So now to find the string that we need is, again, we're going to come over here to aircraft, pick the aircraft that you want. So in our case, it's, here, the Boeing 757-200. You can see it's selected. And we saw earlier, if you click fly right now, it will launch successfully and load the appropriate aircraft model. We want to see what is the aircraft string that was used to launch that. So if you come up here and say tools, view command line, sometimes this thing freezes on me and acts a little wonky. I need to close FlightGear. Let me restart FlightGear again, and we'll show that actually works. I don't know why FlightGear does this. I think it's just the version I've got is a little bit buggy, but again, here, relaunched. Here, it's got the 757-200, so I'm going to go here and say Tools, View, Command Line. There, now it pops up. Now you can see here where it's the option of -- aircraft equals 757-200 RB211. So apparently what we need down here is -RB211. Okay, so that is going to hopefully work. So if I save this, now this batch file should be ready to rock. So let me go ahead and close FlightGear. Okay, and now what we can do is we can launch it using this batch file. So again, I'm now going to just double click on this batch file, and that starts opening up FlightGear. And haha, look at this. It's got the 757-200, and this looks very similar to what we had earlier. So again, let's go ahead and let this load up, and I'll show that it's ready to rock with Simulink. Okay, so it loaded up, and let's just move this off to the side. And again, this is interesting that this model is ready to go in the sense that it's already sort of listening to the joystick interface. So I've got my joystick plugged in. Notice Simulink is not running, but if I move my joystick, look at that, the yoke moves around. But again, the thing that I'm more interested in is now when I hit run in Simulink, this is going to start up, and there we go. You can see it's starting to move. I'm going to move my joystick around. I'm getting some motion. The scenery should hopefully pop in just a second. Give it a little bit. It's a little bit slow. There's our scenery. Oh, whoops, and I just crashed. But anyway, you get the point. Now, let me see if I can fly above ground so we can see this a little bit more easily. There we go. Here we are. Now everything is ready to go with Simulink. So this is a great way to now go ahead and use different aircraft models with your with our Simulink environment. So let me see if I can just move this back so we can see a rear view of the aircraft. There we are. Perfect. Look at this. So now this is a lot better, right? Now the FlightGear visualization is a 757, which is what we're simulating, right? It's a 757-200-ish size aircraft. So this looks a lot better. So this is one quick and easy way to go ahead and get additional aircraft models into FlightGear and use it for our simulation. Now, let me show you another way that we can get more aircraft models in case you don't have administrator rights and you are not able to go ahead and paste your files into the C program files FlightGear data aircraft folder. All right, so what we need to do is basically just find the aircraft definition files somewhere on the internet. And, you know, there's a lot of places to get this, but one place that's fairly popular is on GitHub. So if you go to github.com/fgmembers, you'll see there are a bunch of aircraft here that should be available for downloading. So in fact, I think I found something on the second page that seemed a little interesting. Where was it? Aha, look at this. Wright Flyer 1903. This might be interesting to see if we can get this thing to work. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Now, if you're a GitHub person and you want to clone this, that sounds great. But I don't need to actually clone the entire repo. I just need to download the zip file. So I'll go ahead and click on this, download zip. Okay, and here is the file. Let's go ahead and show it in my downloads folder. Where did it go? There it is. So here's the file. Let's go ahead and unzip this file. So I will just extract this all. And it's opening, or I guess it's on another screen. Sorry, again, I apologize. It's I've got multiple monitors. Okay, so here it is. Now, the thing to also to be a little careful of is if you go ahead and download this from someplace like GitHub, right? GitHub has the idea of different branches, and this one I downloaded it off the master branch. So they decide to tack on this string, which is -master to the end of the folder. So what I want to do is I want to dig down, basically find here it is. Okay, here's all my aircraft models. So I'm going to go up one level, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the words or the string -master. So we end up with this. So Wright Flyer 1903. So here are my aircraft definition files. I'm going to go ahead and cut these, and let's move them to some location where, again, you do have write access. So for example, for me, let's go ahead and just go and put something, I don't know, I'll make a folder here on my D drive on my machine. I'm going to call this maybe, how about FlightGear? All right, that's probably good enough. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and go into this, and I'm going to say paste. So in here are some additional aircraft that I want for FlightGear. So what we can do is let's go back over to FlightGear. Sorry, this was the one we had earlier for our demo with the 757. So let's go and close FlightGear. And again, I will start up FlightGear normally in the start menu, and then launch the FlightGear app, and we'll get the launcher over here in just a second. So if I come over here to aircraft, as you can see, it doesn't have this Wright Flyer 1903 because it has no idea about this directory. So to add this directory to FlightGear search path, I'm going to come down to the add-on section, and in here, additional aircraft locations. Let's go ahead and hit the plus sign. And basically, I will just navigate to that location. So that was, come on, if I could get this here, my D drive, what was it, FlightGear? Is that where we put all this? Here we go. This folder, let's go ahead and select that folder. Okay. And sometimes this thing is a little bit buggy. Let's see if I can go over here to summary. Ah, shucks, this thing, yeah, this wizard, at least this version of FlightGear is a little bit buggy. Let me go ahead and try this again. I'm going to close this, come here, relaunch the wizard. And we're going to try this again. Maybe to make this faster, let me just go ahead and copy this location. Come here to add-ons. Oh, okay, look, it did pick it up. Okay, I don't know why it forced me to restart. But now, if I come here to aircraft, aha, look at, here it is, the Wright Flyer. This is the one we want. So again, I'm going to click on it. And then I'll go back to the summary page. Aha, that is looking pretty great. Now let's get the string that we're going to need. I'm going to come here and say tools, view command line. Ah, great. And here it is. It's buggy again. It's not showing me the command line. So let's try this again. I'm going to close the FlightGear window. I'm going to relaunch FlightGear. And now hopefully we'll have the Wright Flyer selected and we can look at the actual command line to get the string that we need. Did not pick that up. Okay, let's come here to aircraft. Pick this here. Tools, view command line. There it is. Okay, here it is. The aircraft is this thing. It's the Wright Flyer 1903. So let's go ahead and go back to our batch files. And again, let's make another batch file, which is now going to hopefully launch our FlightGear in listening mode and ready for Simulink, except now I want to use a Wright Flyer. Whoops, Flyer. Okay, so there we go. Rename the file. Let's go in here and edit the file. All right, and we are going to change this aircraft string to be Wright Flyer 1903, okay? Now, we got to make one more modification. If we save this and try to execute and run this batch file, it's going to choke, and it's still going to say, hey, I can't find this this Wright Flyer 1903 in any of the search folders. The reason why is, again, if you come back here and look at the FlightGear launcher options, you see we also have to now set the aircraft directory. So what we need to do is we need to add that line here, which is basically --aircraft-dir, okay, equals d/lum/FlightGear/Wright Flyer 1903. Okay, there we go. So now let's save this batch file. All right, close this and double click the batch file. And I got it choked. Hold on a second. I think I fat fingered something. Yep. Look at that. This was a semicolon. It should have been a slash. Yeah, I was a horrible typist. So let's try that again. Save this. Close. Okay, now let's try that. Run that batch file. Aha. Here it is. Great. It looks like it's loading up with the Wright Flyer. All right, and let's get this thing ready to go. I'll move this over to the side. Let's pull up our Simulink model, and we can get ready for a completely ridiculous, mismatched aircraft model / skin versus what we're actually simulating, right? So, aha, look at here we are. Here's our little Wright Flyer. Again, let me see if I can move. Yeah, if I move the joystick, right, look at this. It's moving the control surfaces of this aircraft. And now if I come over here and hit play in Simulink, it's compiling. Aha, it's running. Great. Now it's moving, and we'll give it a second for the scenery to pop in. And this is pretty hilarious, right? Let me go ahead and whoops, no, go to view. I want to move the viewpoint a little bit back. View, adjust view position. Let's scroll back. Aha, here we are. So now we're flying the Wright Flyer. But we've got the dynamics of a 757-ish size aircraft in play. So, there you go. With this kind of silly demonstration in place, I think this is probably a great spot to leave it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, I hope you also consider subscribing to the channel. If you just scroll a little ways down and click on that subscribe button, it really does help me continue making these videos. And we will have several more videos on flight mechanics and visualization and all of this kind of good stuff coming out in the future. So, until that future time, I think I'll sign off for now. Talk to you later. Bye.